They are purchasing a prison. So that's a very different context coming from as an African American, where we are trying to get people released from the prisons, and we're not necessarily trying to actually manage and run them. But in their context, the way in which they are conceiving of this is a recognition that where there are societies, there are going to be persons who deviate from society's rule. They're going to be criminals if you have a group of people, 500 plus, I believe anyway. If you got a village size or larger, somebody's going to be deviant and be a criminal. So they are at a point, and even have a ministry that's involved with basically taking over a prison to all aspects of it. And their conviction is that they believe that the gospel will help reclaim and help the issue of recidivism and really return to society. Now, they don't have the complexity, back to this unity issue, that we have, which is they don't have a large segment anyway, of their community that looks different, that happens to be disproportionately in the criminal justice system like we do. Right. So for us, we're trying to deal with equity in a justice system that they're not having to struggle with. They're literally struggling with and saying, how do we help bring the gospel, share the gospel, witness to Jesus in this setting? And for them, not only the purchase of a hospital, but purchasing of a prison. That for me was a new concept and a new thought about this issue. And again, not just trying to sell services as you would do, say, in the United States. Somebody might want to sell the services for a food contract or a health contract or things like that, which, within the Philadelphia business community, there have been businesses that have been built on those types of contracts. But this is different. I mean, this is owning the whole thing. And I thought, so that's something I certainly want to mention as part of it. Also, I didn't say a whole lot about this. I think I alluded to it, but we also visited 2 factories. We actually went through and toured Kia automobile plant. So that was helpful in understanding and seeing. It was a 15,000 employee plant, so it was a large plant. We had to drive a long way to get there, but just their pride in where Korea has come from, because 60 years ago, they were by any definition, last world, however you define it, whether you go first, second, third is your typology or not, but they were nothing. And to see where they have come from, I think there are some lessons learned for communities and people who are looking to emerge. And what was consistent out of that, and certainly delighted personally to see, was that their emphasis on education and the fact that it has borne fruit so quickly. I mean, we're not talking about 100 years, but if you look at the story, which to me, again, a new exposure to it, it is an absolute remarkable story that in the late 1950s, and they are just really coming out of a kind of poverty and situation that would not be unlike many struggling countries today. And if we want to look at our ancestral roots from an African standpoint and to see the progress they were able to make, being freed from war and domestic conflict, having the infrastructure and the protection of the United States in that economy, and so forth, so they don't have to spend money on the military in the same sorts of ways. The emphasis on education, and to see that flourish was amazing. So we went to a Kia plant, new business really, in terms of current business. We went to Samsung, and the pride with which they obviously took in the emergence of these companies was something that was part of it. The other thing that comes to mind is the experience of meeting the first female prime minister. So the president of Korea was unable to join us for breakfast, but several distinguished leaders, political leaders, were there, including the first and perhaps the only female prime minister, who also is connected to the U.S. I believe she is on the university board of Yale or maybe Princeton Seminary, or maybe both. I don't remember. But in either case, those were some very, very powerful experiences, not to mention just the time period with one another.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time to share your Korean reflections.
Yes. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.